Hello, Grey Couch family. This is Stanley
This is Otito.
from the Grey Couch coming to you again. And today we just want to quick shout out and talk to you guys about something that we are still struggling with. And it's still how did we tag this?
Putting the context, right, in
In
conflict.
conflicts. So putting the context in conflicts. Did I say conflicts? Conflict.
Yes, conflicts, conflicts.
Or
That's cool.
oh, and the story that we wanted to use to highlight this is
Journey mapping. Mapping your journey.
as in we love to travel a whole lot, but it wasn't always like that. Putting context into your conflicts and not conflicts. So Otito hates getting lost. And in driving, any brother out here that's driving, you know that in driving that comes to territory. I'm the kind of person that if I get lost, I'm just going to find myself back and then get back on the track. But as simple as this might sound, though, this caused a lot of friction for us. In fact, we normally say how the old GPS, Magellan saved our marriage because
before Google came and took
over. Stood it and ways. Magellan saved our marriage because as in we're like, okay, I thought you're supposed to take a left turn, and I thought you're supposed to take and in some ways, though, this is an allegory for life because we're all on a journey, you know, somebody along the way and expect that they were going to go
yes.
You know, and then sometimes you take a detour, sometimes flat tire, sometimes, so an interesting allegory, but we meant this literally. In traveling, literally, there were always fights, and I would always come from the logical standpoint, as in you're just too emotional about this, as in let's use logic. Try and solve the problem, and okay, that lost this way. It says take a left turn here, and we missed the left turn. We just go further down, make a U-turn, and then come back. Now, what's the big deal? Only, I guess we now, later on right now, we found out that we found out that the content of the disagreement isn't as important as the context, because you and I know that long after you've had a disagreement or a little squabble, you don't remember the specifics, but you can remember how it made you feel. So we're like, okay, let's probe into this a little bit more. So in this area with the driving, I felt that this was an attack on my adequacy as a man to be able to drive, to get us to where I need to go. I was taking it personally. And I didn't realize that she had issues with getting lost that I will let her expand on so that I don't get into trouble later on.
Oh, yeah. It's not one thing, it's just this sense of safety. I don't know, all this like driving at night, all those kind of things. So it's, some people call it a personal quirk, right? Because some people just don't care. But imagine that I'm the kind of person who, I still use my GPS as a map, right? Because I'm thinking, what if the phone goes off? So the what ifs. So before I head out anywhere, I'm looking at the whole journey, right? I'll look and say, where does he want me to go? But then you get in a car with somebody who just enters the car and says, let's go. I'm thinking, what if the GPS takes you? What if the GPS takes you off a bridge, for which you have heard those stories before, and it has happened to us on the way to Charlotte when they were still building 485. So if you live in Charlotte here, hello. The road ended. There was nowhere else to go. And we were following Mr. Upwards' style of driving. So, things like that. in that sense. Yeah, so that's it. But
the idea I want to bring up is that what if these idiosyncrasies, these differences are a divine setup, such that God really wants us to bring both parts of our hemispheres together.
Yeah.
With the emotional, with the logical, women with the emotional, and come together and make for something unique. And as opposed to fighting against each other, we should form a cohesive team and use both of the coin,
yeah. I mean, that's true, because if you probe down, like you say, there's no logical reason why you shouldn't trust the GPS, right? Is that, I mean, that would be what somebody would say. And I just cannot still explain it, but it's just like, I have to know where I'm going, right? In that sense. But that could also be a limiting thing too in life, right? Because if you are used to just knowing A to B to C, then it's going to be very hard if, the cost changes, right? In that sense. So
my question for you is that how did you relax your right response to my GPS styles?
So how did it happen is, do I want to travel or do I want to stay at home? Travel wins. Like, you just kind of say, where do I want to find myself, right? Do I want to be home and not travel, or get on the road and, work it out, right? That's kind of the question you're asking.
Yeah. And for me, it turns out that these long drives where I normally tease and say that I become a captive audience, literally. In the car with the person for 10, 12 hours, there's no escape. If the person
there's nothing you're not talking about.
I can't say, let me get back to you. I might say that for 30 minutes. And okay, you had 30 minutes to think about it. We're still on 240. What was the response to that other question? And those were the moments where we kind of got a better understanding of each other. So what's that thing? And say that the major conflict, what you're trying to avoid, that thing you don't want to name, can actually be giving it a the beginning of your salvation or your turnaround.
Because you probably felt like, I mean, it sounds so mundane, but if you think about it, you probably felt like, are you questioning my ability to drive? Did I not teach you how to drive? Did I not teach you?
As in, exactly. My manhood was challenged, honestly, but
like me, that I taught you how to drive.
it took just
or at least started.
It took stepping back to see, okay, what's the underlining context here, and not necessarily the content, because the tendency is how can you, I mean, after I gave you staff of office, now telling me that I don't know how to do a good job, and it's mind-boggling, because a lot of times your desire to keep the GPS. I mean, I might be in another city and I'll call you and say, listen, I mean, this city, how am I going to get to this place? And you'll be giving me directions off the top of your head, and then you still want to use GPS to know where you're going. So I find that a little bit interesting, but hey, I'm not judging. It's a judgment-free zone.
Yeah. So I mean, so if you took it to another side, right? So we use that journey story as an example, but remember how we were saying that sometimes the biggest conflicts that come about, which we talk about in our book, right, sometimes has to do around finances or provision, right? That idea of, supposedly, right, provision of something. So for the man, it would be like, hey, are you saying I'm not a good provider, right? But then we normally think of provision sometimes just as maybe the financial side. But we've talked about this before, that provision is not just financial, right?
Yeah. It goes deeper than that. There's the security and the stability part of provision. That, I mean, kind of like how a child looks up to parents. It doesn't really understand the concept of money, but you shall know, if I turn around, this person is going to be there. That's security. And so I think that while the guys look at it as, oh, maybe a type of shame that, oh, for you to accuse me of this or ask this particular question, it implies that you think I'm not doing a good job providing this type of security or security. Whereas the lady on the other side, there's a fear of abandonment. And
I think
abandonment is not necessarily somebody walking out, because I know that someone can be in the same house with you, and they've abandoned you mentally and otherwise.
They've abandoned you mentally and spiritually and physically. Well, not physically, emotionally, because physically they're still there. Yeah.
So with that, nobody now, you're kind of like afraid to speak your mind. And one of the things that we've said on the breakout is that these type of deep-seated conversations, they need a safe space, a safe space where you will speak your heart and know that you will not be judged. And what that might say in office, no fear of retaliation, retaliation in office, but spaces, but be one day at a time to try and spaces. They're not, okay, this person said this to me. I know that we are playing on the same side. This person doesn't mean to hurt me. What else could be going on? And then ask those probing questions.
Yeah. Okay. I guess, I mean, you've said it all. But if you come back to the question of the GPS, right? You had said that it's like an allegory, because I had said, do I want to go on this journey or do I want to stay home, right? So if you bring it to relationships, it's like, do you want to make this work, right? And if you make it work, it means you have to get in the car and drive, no matter what, right? Because we're still traveling. It's been what? How many years? 16, 17 years, and we're still doing those like road trips. And as it turns out, it's really one of my favorite things to do. I think, COVID made it that we didn't do enough of that in the last 2 years. So we have to
catch up.
Have to make up. Make up. Makeup can mean many different things, but I have to make it up. Yeah, okay. So
that's what we have for you guys this week. Try and put the context into your conflicts.
Conflicts.
Not conflict.
Not easy, but yeah. You
find to have more interesting if conflicts can be interesting.
I know, right? Okay, then. Until next week, it's going to be bye from us. But don't forget to hit that button right there, subscribe,
and share.
Whatever you need to do to get this out there to your friends. We would love to have more people join us, have this conversation, send us your questions and everything, and we'll tackle them as we come and our guests come as well, right, over the coming weeks. Okay.
So, to you. Bye for now.